Good morning, everyone. We are very excited to see you. I'm extremely happy to be here. I came here just for this event. I flew in from Austin, Texas earlier this week, and it's just been a great experience. I love Stockholm. I love Sweden. This is a great place to be. So yes, I am Hall Hood. I am a senior writer at Bioware Austin. If you're wondering what I did, I co-wrote the Smuggler class, and I was the primary author of the Jedi Knight class. I also wrote a lot of the world-based and faction-based content for both. We wanted this game to be big. We wanted to reward players with as much story as we could. We wanted this to truly feel like an epic Star Wars trilogy. So every class has its own incredible Star Wars trilogy of stories, with a chapter 1, 2, and 3. And it's comprising several hundred hours of gameplay for each class. So when you multiply that times 8, now we're talking about thousands of hours of gameplay for everybody. But that's not all. It's not gonna be over. The story won't just end. It keeps going, right? This is more like a grand, think about it in terms of like a TV series where you're the star of the show. Your character, your story will go on. So, how many people in here played the original Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2? Good. We like those games too, a lot. Of course, BioWare created the original Knights of the Old Republic in the last decade, and then Oblivion released the sequel a few years later, Knights of the Old Republic 2. So, when we announced that we were creating the Old Republic as an MMO, a lot of fans were concerned. They were like, well, we wanted KOTOR 3. Where's KOTOR 3? Well, we have it for you. In fact, we have KOTOR 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc., etc., etc. Our game is a true successor. It is continuing the legacy of those original games. It is furthering the storyline. Okay? It's set a few hundred years after the time of those first two games, which gave us a chance to kind of reset things and clear the stage so that you as players can come in and become great heroes. You can become the heroes of this era in our game. But the legacies of the characters that you remember, the places that you visited, those are continuing. This is very much a continuation of the stories that were begun in Knights of the Old Republic and continued in Knights of the Old Republic 2. So we do promise. We love those games, we love those storylines. The writers in the department, we love the lore of that game, and we want it to keep going. But it wasn't enough to simply recreate that experience from the original KOTOR games. We needed to bring even more immersion and emotional depth, and that's why our game has full voiceover for all the dialogue in the game. That includes the character classes. So whatever character class you're playing, you're going to have a voice. You'll actually have your option of 2 different voices because we have male and female voices in the game for every class. But in addition to that, we have thousands of NPCs, literally thousands of NPCs in our game who all have their own unique voiceover dialogue. And what we've learned is that when people play our game, they become incredibly emotionally invested in the experience because of the voiceover, because there's nothing quite like walking up to that NPC and talking to them and feeling like they're a real person. Like they have something to say, like they have a life beyond just that moment where you're talking to them. And here's the other thing. We have, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of lines of dialogue in our game. By way of comparison, the screenplay for the movie The Empire Strikes Back has just over 830 lines of dialogue. So we made several hundred Star Wars movies for you guys in our game, and we think you're really going to enjoy it. But it's not just about story. I've been talking about story a lot, and story is very important to us. But we also want you to know this is a fully featured MMO. It's got everything that you've come to expect from those types of games. How many people here are hardcore MMO players? All right, excellent. We have a game for you. We're going to have a lot of gameplay options. You're going to have a lot of things to do in our game. And BioWare has always been about choice, about providing players with the maximum choices possible. The choices of how to customize their character, the choices of what gender to play, the choices of how to pursue the gameplay and the story. And again, to bring things back to the story element, choice is a major part, of course. You guys have experience with BioWare's games. You know what it's like to play them. Our games aren't meant, the stories in our games are not meant to be consumed passively, right? You don't just sit back and watch a cutscene and wait for it to be over so you can start playing again. You play our stories. You decide where they're going. You decide what happens to the people in your stories. And that's really critical. But here's something new that we brought to the MMO genre, which is that if you're used to our single-player RPGs, you know, well, I'll just save and reload if I don't like the choice. Well, in an MMO, it's live all the time, and there are no save points. So your choices really matter, and you need to think about them, at least a little. But it's fun. It's really fun to make these choices and know that the consequences are going to stick, that they're going to stay, right? You're going to live with these consequences. You're going to live with the direction that you steer that story in. And it's thrilling. It is so emotionally gripping when you know that you're playing for keeps. So that's great. We have choices. That's all wonderful. You're excited about that. But right now, you have another choice to make. What class are you going to play? Which side are you going to be on? Has anybody reconsidered which side they're going to be on? No? Okay, I hope you guys are really good at playing the Republic classes because we're doomed. But anyway, I've got one more video to show you that might give you something to think about before you start playing the game.
You as a writer, what's been the greatest challenge for you during this whole process?
So the question was, as a writer, what was the great challenge of this process? Everything is the short answer. But the reality is, writing interactive dialogue, branching, fully interactive dialogue where the player is in control of the conversation and directing the flow of the story, that's already incredibly challenging to do. Very few people can really wrap their brains around it. The complexities of doing that and always giving the player agency. But when you start introducing multiplayer into this and the possibilities for multiple players to start competing to direct the flow of the conversation, it gets... I have conversation files that I look at and it hurts my brain. Like, it's just so hard. I look at these things, I'm like, okay, I know this works. Okay, good. So it takes a lot of playtesting to make sure that all of that writing comes together and that all of the players' options and directions and ways that they can steer the story all work together and will work with other players.
Can you tell something about crafting?
The game has crafting?
Tell them a little more.
Sure. I mean, the basics that you come to expect from a lot of MMOs are there, but at the same time, there are some very, very exciting features about our crafting system. For example, companions. We refer to crafting as crew states. And companions, being your crew, will take part in that as well. So they will play a big part in helping you craft. For example, you can send them off on crafting missions. You can just use them in various ways other than sending them to fight. At the same time, crafting, we've talked a little bit about it recently. We're kind of starting to open up more and more. We've got a lot of feedback on crafting in beta, a lot. And you can really get some great items. It's crafting in a lot of MMOs out there is kind of like a pastime. And we took a look at it and wanted to make it an important feature of the game. So it's very, very rewarding. Every single crew skill in the game will have some sort of extreme reward at the end. So it's something that's definitely worth sinking your time into.
All I want to add to that is, I think it's a great idea to have the companions handle all the crafting for you, because you know, there's never that scene in Star Wars where the guy comes into the Star Destroyer where Darth Vader's hanging out and like he's building stuff, you know, it's downtime, it's like he's waiting to attack Luke and he's like, oh whatever, I gotta finish this thing. So yeah, it doesn't work like that. And the great thing about it is, in the game, when you're out adventuring in the world, you can only take one companion with you at a time. Well, you're going to have several companions. You're going to accumulate several of them. And it's nice to know that when you leave them back on the ship, they're not just sitting there playing canasta. You know, it's like they're actually doing something useful for you. So that was another key element of it. But the great thing, and I think this is still true, even though your companions are the ones who craft these things for you, your character name goes on the item. So I like to believe it's like your companion's like, what? It's like, hey, who's the captain? I'm the captain. That's right. Yeah. All right. We'll get you next.
All right, thanks. How about that? How would work playing solo versus playing in groups? Like, I get my companions, and then I'm gonna group with my friends. I pick one companion with me, and we're like twice as many all the time.
We do have ways to scale the game for when you are playing. Part of the thing with companions, we have companions because that's very much a part of BioWare, right? BioWare games, we've always had companions. They're always integral to the story. They're important. So we wanted to include those in this game experience as well. But we do want players to group up. This is an MMO. We want you to be social. We want you to experience our content together. So we do have it scaled. So it won't be a scenario where you group up with your friends and everybody brings your companions and you just mow down everything in your path. There will still be a challenge to the game. I think he was next and then you.
Advanced class respect. How? Why? Any words?
Why? you make your choice and you stick with it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
no, I mean...
it's going to have consequence, and you can respect. I understand that some people might press the wrong button, and okay, but doesn't it like erode my character story if I can level up as a Jedi Guardian if they just switch to a Sentinel all of a sudden? Or what's your perspective?
Well, I mean, from a writing perspective, obviously Paul can add a little bit more, but from a pure game mechanics perspective, it's something that if people make mistakes, we want them to be able to rectify those mistakes. However, if people decide, you know what, I just want to keep jumping around, then obviously there's going to be repercussions for that. And those repercussions are, in our games, in the way we've run it, it's simply financial. So it will cost credits. And every time you do it, it's more and more and more. And it isn't a small amount. So even if you make it 100,000 million credits,
dedicated gamers will then use it as an option to maximize their gameplay. The question is, did you put in a roof like, let's say, after level 20, it's not possible anymore, or is it simply a matter of finance, no matter what level you're on?
I don't believe there's any roof in right now. But that may change. I mean, again, it's one of those things we've had a ton of feedback on during the beta process, so keep an eye on.
I'll just add a little bit to that. Again, player choice is critical to us, and we want players to feel like they have full control over their characters at all times. And that includes the ability to go back and change their skills, change their powers if they feel like what they got wasn't exactly what they were expecting. And just to address your concern about breaking story immersion and things like that, the reality is players who want to do that, you know, we have this wonderful self-editing skill as people where we can just sort of retroactively pretend like we were always the spec. You know, it's like the story was always about me as this guy with 2 blasters, you know, sort of thing, even though I started out with this guy with a stealth belt and a shotgun and all this kind of thing. So I think it works fine. I don't think it really is going to break anyone's immersion in the game. I think it's, you know, you know, change the direction of you know, make their story seem invalid. I don't think it has that problem.
Take Malgus, for example. I mean, Malgus starts off almost as a marauder, and then by the end of a
really ugly juggernaut. So, Yes.
Will there be a cantina band?
There will be many cantina bands. Actually, one of the most fun things that I got to do in the last couple of months was we came up with names for all the cantina bands that are around the galaxy. So we got some great names in there. That was fun. Now, band names are easy. Like, we say stupid things all the time, and we immediately go, band name. So we always write it down, like weird strings of words that go together. And we're like, okay, band name. So, yes.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions from some of my guildmates. So I'm just a messenger, don't tell me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one of the questions are there plans to support add-on development?
Are there plans to support add-on development? Do you mean additional content?
No, like add-ons in games such as, well,
Like UI mods.
yeah, UI and usability stuff.
Again, something we've had a ton of feedback on in and out of beta. It's what a lot of players want. It's something we're looking at, but whether it'll be in for launch or not, we're not sure.
Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I got it.
You've got 25 questions. All right, let's take turns. Does anybody else have a question? Yes.
You primarily wrote the Jedi part. Was that? Is it a personal favorite in Jedi, or did you look over to the Sith and go,
No, you know, for me, like, I grew up with the Star Wars movies. I love Star Wars. I've always been more drawn to the heroic side of things. It was a lot of fun to get to write the Smuggler. I will always have a soft spot for the Smuggler class. But the opportunity to write that iconic Jedi Knight, that Luke Skywalker story, was too good to pass up. I had to do it. So, and I had a great time writing it. Yes.
Will there be in-game events run by community managers or other staff?
Will there be in-game events run by moderators or other staff?
More than likely not, especially not probably for the first, I don't know, well, the early days of the game. I mean, there's going to be a lot of other things that players are going to be able to just delve right into and probably want to pay more attention to than anything that us community managers could come up with. But in the future, who knows? Who knows?
there are going to be a lot of events in the game, so that are already there.
Quick follow-up to that. Christmas, Halloween, stuff like that. Please say no.
Well, I mean, it's something that needs to fit into the lore, because Christmas and Halloween don't necessarily fit into Star Wars universe per se.
Life Day. It's all about Life Day.
Darth Claws, that'd be great. Yeah, it's not something that we're gonna put in right from the start, but again, future, who knows?
Right. Are there any plans to add Passat into Tor?
Are there plans to add Pazak into Tor? I don't know, but as a hardcore Pazak player from the original Knights of the Old Republic, I certainly hope so, because I love that game. I'd also like to see us get Sabak in the game.